This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. This episode is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. Mountain Glass now has their December sales running from now until the end of December 2015. You can now get borosilicate AccuGrind joints for 15% off by putting in code AccuGrind, that's ACCUGRIND at checkout. And they also have their Soft Glass COE 104 sale, jewelry making essentials for 25% off. Just put in the word jewelry at checkout. That's JEWELRY. Just go to mountainglass.com for more information. And this show is also brought to you by Green Flash Glass. And Green Flash Glass is now offering 10% off all sales from now through the end of December 2015. If you are a wholesaler, retail store, get a hold of them through their website at greenflashglass.com. Give them a phone call and place your order. That is greenflashglass.com. And all sales are always free shipping that are $1,000 or more. And now on with the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 66. This is Jay Michael, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm here to bring you inspiration, education, entertainment through myself and stories of other artists in our field, as well as stories from other people out there that are experts in areas such as health, law, and other things that we have to deal with in the world of glass. So thank you so much for tuning in. I am excited because today is a special birthday episode featuring myself, as I am turning 39 in a couple days, and I thought it would be fun to bring a good friend of mine, Mike Sharkey, who is been a good friend of ours for a long time, but is also a podcast host himself and coach. His show is called The Talent Show, and he is all about helping podcasters be better hosts. And I thought, why not a better person to bring on to interview myself than himself as well? He has 35-plus years of radio experience locally here where we live, so he's got that voice. And he's also a great guy and an amazing friend, so it's humbling and a lot of fun to have him on. And also to share my story. And I give you guys some insights of myself and my journey in glass, my time at Disney that I'm spending there, and also what makes me tick in terms of entrepreneurial inspirations and my family and all that good jazz. And currently I'm sitting out in my backyard. It's a blustery, windy, 82-degree winter day. Unbelievable. So hopefully Santa Claus, when he comes and visits, he brings his bathing suit and flip-flops, because if he is wearing his big old winter coat, he will be sweating his ass off. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm not sure about you guys out there and the other around the world, but our weather down here has been unbelievably unseasonal, and I'm not going to complain because I'm out here in my bathing suit right now, so it's pretty cool, kind of. It's actually hot. So anyways, just before I forget, also want to get some housekeeping done. Mountain Glass is continuing their Get It Quick sale this week through Wednesday, it's through Tuesday, December 15th. If you guys are listening to this today, you have one more day to get on this sale. They have Chinese color and clear rod and tubing for 40% off. All you have to do is put in the word Chinese at checkout, and that's CHINESE. And then for all you soft glass lamp workers out there, they have their Creation is Messy sale going on for 30% off, and all you got to do is put in code MESSY at checkout, MESSY. And also some exciting news from Mountain Glass is they are now carrying Troutman odds and seconds. And for the first time ever, Mountain Glass is offering their favorite Troutman color rods and odds and seconds, so get them while they last. Just go to mountainglass.com and check them out for that and other sales and details that are going on, and get it while supplies last. So now, again, today we're going to be talking about myself, and I'm excited about that. It's been 17 almost years of lamp work experience, and 25, or really, I guess more like 35-ish or more years where I've been exposed to business and entrepreneurship with my family having owned businesses and whatever else. And this has been an interesting journey, especially this past year once this podcast kind of started to grow in my head. and then actually started to get everything together, and then the ideas, and then bought the equipment, and then got this thing started and recording. So you guys are awesome for staying with me. We've had just about over 15,000 downloads on the show, and we don't know how many listens that there actually are. There could have been 50 to 60,000 listens. I don't know, because of the way that the iTunes algorithms and things work. All you can see are downloads. So that being said, if you guys do listen to the show, if you could subscribe to it, it'll let me see how many of you actually are out there listening to the show. It also helps in iTunes with their algorithm and getting the show to the top of the charts and to the categories of arts and business and lifestyle. But the most important thing you can do with this show is you can share it with your friends and your family and other artists out there to help get the word out that we are starting a group here, a family, where we can all help each other grow as artists and business owners, and as this industry begins to move forward. And, speaking of the industry, when I first started the show off, I really had the focus and idea that I really wanted to focus on just glass in general. And even though I do focus on glass specifically, the kind of show has really gone into focusing on the functional art industry, which I've been in love with and a part of now for close to 17 years, and really has been my foundation for what has taught me all my glass work and what have you. And because of that, I've really kind of changed some of the focus on the show and where we're going with it. But really, all this stuff that we talk about can really be used by any artist out there, whether you're a painter or a musician or a glass artist in general. So it's been a lot of fun, and as I go through this process with you guys and share things that I'm learning as I grow as an artist and grow as a business owner and entrepreneur, hopefully you guys are growing along with me. And we're going to be talking about goal setting, not goal setting as in losing weight and not eating sugar anymore, but goal setting as in what pertains to our businesses and how we can get more organized, get more clear and precise on the areas that we want to really grow in, and also our journey as we become more and more professional, as we take this industry more seriously and laws begin to change and all that other jazz. So it's pretty cool stuff. So again, I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten, all the love, all the responses, and all the downloads. It's been amazing. You guys are awesome. So this Wednesday also, I will be doing our first trivia question, which will pertain to a show from last week. The particular question, I'm not going to say what show it was in, but I will give the question, and the question will obviously be pretty obvious on what episode it came from. But we're going to start doing some giveaways. I love doing giveaways, something I've always enjoyed. I will be giving away some sticker packs and some glass and what have you to the winner of this particular question. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of you that will get the answer right. And then by getting it right, I'll then just do a random choosing of some sort, however it works out, to make sure we pick a winner. And we'll be doing this every Wednesday. I'll be doing a trivia question pertaining to the previous week's show. So kind of give you guys a reason to really listen intently and to maybe even listen a couple times to the shows. And some of these shows really I suggest listening to several times because of the amount of information some of the shows have. Not all the shows do have a shit ton of information, but most of them have some good insights and stuff you guys can carry away with it. So other than that, don't forget, if you guys have not yet subscribed, go to wiseguyradio.com and subscribe to our newsletter. Today's newsletter will be featuring all of our PDFs that I had talked about last week with all of our inventory sheets and lists and what have you. And it'll give you guys some organizational tools to use as you get ready for this tax season coming up, which sucks. I am scheduling my appointment with my accountant also to sit down and interview her and her assistant for the show before the year ends. And I also have a woman artist named Natasha, who is the head of this mastermind group of artists that I'm a part of. She is an incredible artist and also business owner and coach. And going to be bringing her on next week to discuss and talk about goal setting and also what it really takes to be a professional artist and the kind of mindset that we have to have and as we go through this process. And also really the idea of mastermind groups. Starting next year, I'm going to be initiating some mastermind groups with everybody to see who wants to get some interest in getting in these groups. I have a private Facebook group I've already started that I haven't really put out there yet. But basically the goal is to get people together to discuss not only business but life. When you put people together in a circle and there's trust that is built, it allows you to really open up and discuss areas that you may not be aware of that are affecting you and your business and your life. And by having people that are like-minded as artists out there, it makes a huge difference. So these are going to be some of the areas we're going to be discussing, and I'm really excited about that whole thing. So, all right, guys. So anyways, moving forward, without further ado, here is myself, Jay Michael, the artist extraordinaire. As one newspaper article wrote about me a couple months back, that I am a local Florida prominent glass artist, and I am here to bring you guys all kind of fun stuff. So sit back, enjoy this fun discussion between myself and Mike Sharkey. And again, please go to Wise Guy Radio and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them at info@wiseguyradio.com, and I'll get back to you guys ASAP. I do check every single email that you send me and read them all and respond. So there you go. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all that good stuff. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything else, and we will talk to you on episode 67. Take it easy. See ya.
There's only one way to think of me starting it off. Happy birthday, dude.
Hey, man, thank you.
How's it feel? You're getting old now.
I know, fucking almost 40.
Jesus.
Yeah, 39.
Man,
16-year-old daughter, too, is kind of crazy.
that is crazy. When I was your age, I don't know what I'm going to follow that with, but when I was your age. So, you know, you and I have shared a lot of cool moments this year talking about podcasts, talking about the show, but with a happy birthday, I have to also say congratulations on amazing success with the Wise Guy Radio Show.
Yeah, man, thank you.
That's enormous, man. I mean, and you're getting download numbers that, as I work with other podcast clients, you're blowing their numbers out of the water. You know, do you attribute that to anything special, or is it just that you're connecting with your community?
Yeah, I really think it has to do with the community, like at large. Like it's a big family, and especially with social media now and the trends of where everybody's kind of coming together on Instagram or whatever, even more so on Instagram than anywhere else. It's really amazing seeing how tight everybody's gotten, you know, and the fact that we can share what we're doing on a daily basis, whether it's our lives with our kids and family or a glass we're making or whatever. It's pretty amazing.
Well, before you even cracked the mic for the first time, before you did episode 1, I mean, you were already owning social media, especially Instagram. You know, what's your follow? What are you at now, followers?
I at like 9,500 now.
That's
almost
crazy.
10,000.
That's awesome. And what a perfect platform for which to share the visual of a pipe that you just made, some glass that you just blew. I mean, that works perfectly for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just took everything you did on Instagram, and now you're using it, talking into a microphone.
Yeah.
So that's perfect.
Yeah, and with the Instagram too, it's cool because we can actually share the process, you know, while we're making it too, which is fun.
Yeah.
Which I like a lot.
So, because you and I have spent so much time this past year talking about podcasts, and I shared the story on my podcast, The Talent Show, about how you inspired me to do that. So did you imagine that the show would elevate to the place it's at now? Like when you were in your wildest dreams, I mean, you're only a few months in, but even at this point, did you ever think, man, this thing's going to take off like it is?
Yeah, you know, I had in my head like the idea of where I wanted it to be.
Right.
And like, for instance, like getting Mountain Glass as a sponsor, like when I was designing the show, they were in my design. So now that they're on board and things are kind of panning out, it's actually helping me get the show consistent, you know, in a sense. But also, I wasn't really sure, you know, what the downloads were going to be or even the listens, because like, you know how it is. We don't know how many people are actually listening to the show,
Right.
which is kind of a pain in the ass. But when I had that first download, I was like, fucking awesome. I've got an audience now, even if it's just one person, you know. So then it just has grown from there, and now I've got like 15,000 downloads on the show.
That's incredible,
Which
man.
is crazy.
That's what I say. It's like I deal with people that are like stoked when they get like 15 downloads. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I got 100. Even my show,
Right?
I got like this little, I'm not even near your download numbers, and I'm trying to like talk to people who are doing podcasts.
Yeah, you know, I think having three shows a week helps because
Yeah.
this will be like 66. I think this will be this episode will be.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
yeah.
I know doing 3 shows a week though took a little toll on you. How are you doing with that in the mental space?
Yeah, you know, it's. I got to that point to where it's leveled out. I think with the new studio build and trying to run that and not really delegating like certain jobs to certain people, or even like with Chad, my partner, and they're really him and I having to come on the same page to say, hey, dude, I need help with this, you know, taking the thing over. It alleviated a lot of stress in that area to where I can really focus on the show. But also with your help with the show and the editing process, I've gone from 30 hours a week to down to maybe like 7 or 8.
So doing stuff on the front end.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a big difference if you can kind of be diligent on the front end to, here I am coaching, but sorry. But no, if you're diligent on it, it definitely, then you're not spending like every day going, man, I got to edit this out, I got to edit that out. So.
Well, and you know, a lot of it correlates into glass, like with what we do. It's like it's I find like if I have a custom piece I'm making, it's better for me to sit down on paper and write down what I want to do, the material I need, and then draw a picture, plan everything out, engineer it in a sense on paper before I even get into the glass process. So I already have kind of an idea of what I'm getting into so it saves time in the long run. So if something does come up, I can focus on what came up, the issue that came up, which makes a big difference. Where like with this, I was just kind of like, off the seat of my pants in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also very focused on the edit of like lip smacks and ums and all that kind of stuff, where I've kind of gotten away from keeping it so clean to where now it's more raw and realistic. I'm not trying to.
And that's what podcasting is. I mean, yeah, there's the Serial and all those that are highly produced and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about blowing glass or you're talking about cars or whatever, I'd rather you be authentic.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're going to connect with your audience on a way, way more intimate level. And it's why we see podcasting work so well. And it's funny, I can't tell you how many times I'm in some big corporate meeting where they don't understand podcasting, coming from radio. And I use your show as an example.
Awesome.
Like, here's this guy. He's a fucking artist. That's what he is. He blows glass. I always give you shit. I'm like, he's high blowing glass. His audience is high listening too. But he's killing it. He's got a bigger audience than some radio stations. And I think it's because you're authentic. And the more you can kind of think, just like you said, just like blowing glass, the more you think about it on the front end, the less you got to do on the back end. But the less you need to be, hey, I got to edit this out to make it sound perfect.
Yeah.
You crack the mic, you have a conversation, perfection kind of unfolds in that space.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do want to, since, and I think it's cool that you asked me to come over and we're sitting in your backyard, and I love this, dogs barking, planes flying overhead, but in the space of blowing glass, in the space of artists, you've got a show that is alone. 7 billion people in the world, you have the only glass artist show.
Yeah.
So your community is listening to what you're saying. What are some things that have come out since you started the podcast with this community that have really sort of kind of given you that motivation to keep going? Because you do more than just, hey, here's how to blow glass. It's
right.
The art, it's the laws and things like that. So what has your community sort of given you back that has given you encouragement?
Well, I think from the beginning, the avatar that I came up with for the show, the character or the ideal audience member in a sense, was the guy or girl that's been blowing glass for maybe 6 months to a year. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from those particular artists saying that they're hearing things that they never even thought about, or maybe thought about but wasn't sure how to implement it, whether it's for business. Like I always give everybody a tip to, like, when they're at the end of the week, to weigh out their scraps of glass, because it's a tax write-off. It's all waste and shit, but it's also a tax write-off.
Right.
But you gotta, if you have a predetermined number of how much your bucket weighs, then just do the math, And those kind of things people didn't really know about. And because of the industry itself being taken more seriously now, as laws are changing and whatever, it's important that we all have these concepts and ideas of a foundation for business. Because it's easy to be I shouldn't say easy to be an artist, but being an artist is one thing, but being an artist and running a business is a completely different entity. So I've gotten feedback on the ideas of really taking the business side serious. I'm always like, even last week I'm saying, hey, it's frickin' December. It's time to start thinking about your taxes already, which sucks, but we got to think about that kind of shit, It's all horseshit, but it is what it is. But that's the kind of the feedback. But then I've gotten feedback from the guys that have been doing this for 10 plus years, and they're just stoked to have a show that they can come into the studio, turn the kilns on, turn the show on, and they've got something they can listen to instead of the fucking news where people are dying and getting murdered and babies are getting thrown off bridges and dumb shit. They can listen to something that they can relate to in the industry. And then they can also share it with their friends that don't really know what glass blowing is all about, and they can say, hey, here's some guy doing the show, check this out. This is what I do, kind of thing, which is kind of cool. And there have been other shows before me, I guess the predecessors in a sense, that had glass podcasts, but they were kind of here and there.
Right.
There was a guy, I don't remember who it was, but he had a show that was pretty consistent, and then it just all of a sudden stopped. We have Marcy Davis, who does one called Glasscaster, and I think she stopped back in April of last year. So for me to be the only, like you're saying, the only glass podcast in the world, it's pretty cool. And then when I can look at the geographical stats, and I've got people everywhere from Saudi Arabia to fucking Japan to China, and it's crazy. It's really strange, knowing that, actually I've gotten on, I searched the show the other day, and there's people which I need to talk to you about too, looking for feedback from other countries,
right.
for their reviews. And I've gotten reviews from people in Japan. It's all written in Japanese, so I can't tell what the hell they're saying.
These guys suck.
Yeah, exactly. But I got to find that shit out, like what it is that, I got to go through the Google translation, whatever.
Right.
But it's cool to get feedback from all over the world.
Yeah.
That this is, the show here, like I'm in Florida, and it's interesting too. Florida's scene has been very different compared to the rest of the world, like with California and even like Northeast wise, where Florida's now, probably the past 5 years, we've really grown as a glass industry, where people are moving here because the weather's awesome, but also because of the industry is where it is. I mean, they're talking about decriminalizing hopefully here in the next couple of years as well.
Yeah.
As you guys can hear my dogs barking, they're a pain in my ass. But
So you, speaking of being in Florida and this industry, I've always told you that I think it's cool that you work for Disney.
yeah,
And that's been a big part of sort of your past. And I, you and I've talked a little bit about, you're working for Disney's kind of a pain in the ass because it's a drive and sort of there's the real life bullshit that goes along with it. But damn, I mean, that's a big friggin' organization, Walt Disney World,
yeah,
and you're the entertainer that's blowing glass.
yeah.
I mean, I gotta believe that as pain in the ass as that is, you still see the value in blowing glass for the mouse.
Oh yeah, like once I get to, I mean, those that have been there and know the area. There's the Mickey Mouse antenna, power station thing that's there, and I'm like, sometimes the drive is good, sometimes it sucks, but usually once I get to that point, I'm like, okay, I'm home, and I get immediately into Disney mode. All my cussing, all my fucks, and everything else goes away. I mean, literally, when I leave work at night, I hit that thing and I say like 25 fucks just to get it out, just to get it out of my system. Just because I have to.
You can't go to some little 10-year-old and just here's your fucking Olaf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. So I catch myself sometimes like, oh man, I can't say even like hell really.
Right.
Because someone may get offended. I don't really know. Probably not, but they're still pretty strict with stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's being there. But it's being a childhood dream of mine ever since I can remember wanting to be an artist for Disney. Never imagining being a glass artist. I always wanted to be an animator. And now that animation's gone into computers, and I'm not one to sit behind a computer for fucking 6 months or even 3 years working on a project.
Right.
So to be able to sit on the torch now and do this for a living and actually educate and entertain, and now that I'm doing character work, which is also freaking amazing, to be the only person in this country right now that's making Olaf out of glass for Disney is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and that was your idea.
Yeah.
Biggest fucking character that Disney has produced in the last 2 to 3 years. You're the only one to go, hey, you know what? We should probably blow some glass of Olaf.
Yeah.
And they're going to make a fortune off that idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've had to raise the price 3 times or 4 times now because of the demand.
Yeah, I believe it. I absolutely believe it. On the Disney front, because I take my kids over there and they love it. My wife loves going to Disney. The one thing about Disney, and I wanted to bring this up, great lesson learned from Walt Disney World and Walt Disney himself is the attention to detail.
Yeah.
Like they don't miss anything there. Whether it's, hey, they don't look at you as a glass artist that's up there. They look at you as an entertainer.
Yeah.
Same way they look at the, Snow White person or whatever. And just the amount of detail that huge corporation puts into their parks, to the experience. And I think the same can be said for whatever you're doing, whatever business. I mean, if you can think about the detail so that you're, shift it now to you, Wise Guy Radio Show, it's not just about, hey, let's get high and blow glass. This is about the detail of making sure your taxes are right, your business is right. And I think, there is something that you can take away from that, however you choose to take away. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for where I am in my life now, having been recently remarried, and like my journey that I'm on, I'm learning myself as I go along this process. And I feel that by doing this show, it's really making me really keep to my guns and keep what's the word I'm looking for?
Focused?
No, the integrity
of
what it is that I'm doing, that if practicing what I'm preaching type thing. Because I don't want to just be like, yeah, you guys should be doing this stuff, and I'm not. It's horseshit.
Right.
This it would be completely horseshit.
Right.
So it's making me really focus on the details that I know I should be doing, but really in the past may kind of here and there did it, to where now it's really the focus is I needed to focus on this. And then as I learn new things as I go through the process, I can then teach that. Like a couple weeks ago or last week, I did my show on how to sell during the holiday season. And this was really the first year that I've gone to the side and said, okay, I need to go on Etsy and start my Etsy account going. And the things I learned, I was able to then take that and share. So I think it's a kind of a cool concept as well, because I'm not just making pipes. I'm doing everything I can as an artist, because I'm not just a pipe maker.
Right.
Even though the pipes have been what had taught me the glass and still my love for what I do, being able to make something functional, I think is pretty cool, and ceremonial and all the other stuff going along with it. But being able to do what we do as an artist, where the industry's at, learn the business, and then teach that to other people that are just getting started, because there's so many videos out there that show you how to do techniques in glass, but nobody's doing anything in business.
Right.
And now these trade shows that are out there are starting to do roundtable discussions and panels of discussions on the legalities of what's going on in this country, business talk, all that kind of stuff. So part of my goal in the next year is to start doing some conferences myself and be a guest, be a head keynote speaker, talking about the insides of being a glass artist. because there's no reason that none of us, all of us that are out there that have a line or are successful in some form or nature, we should be able to continue doing what we're doing for the next 100 years if we can physically do it.
Well, it's art.
Yeah.
Art doesn't die.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're blowing glass or you throw in paint on a canvas, I mean, it absolutely is art. Now, you said to me a couple of times that your business is, you can make things that are functional, but pipes is always going to be a part of what you do.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that you've got 5 states in the country that are completely legal. Marijuana's legal. Not to say that's the only reason people use a pipe, but there's an immediate association with that.
I think it's actually 4 states.
Is it 4?
Yeah.
Well, it's D.C.
Oh, is D.C.? Is it
Colorado, Washington,
okay.
D.C. I think it's whatever.
Yeah, then it is 5 areas.
But, I mean, having been to Colorado and you walk into, a dispensary and it's like I swear to God, it's like walking into a tea shop.
Yeah.
Just the same as you go buy some expensive tea, you can go buy weed. So that now brings an element of the art completely legal to the people that are 21 and up in those states. It really does craft a multi-million-dollar element to the glass blowing business.
Yeah.
And it's not shady anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see where pipes is, you don't want to be just known for pipes, but it's a huge function of what you do.
Yeah. And it's interesting too when you see, like, for instance, there's a Habitat Gallery down in West Palm, and they're a high-end art gallery, glass art gallery, and they're just now getting into the functional glass scene. But there's people down there in that area that are multimillionaires that are buying $10,000 pieces that they'll never use. They may not even know it can be used until they.
So when you say functional,
yeah,
what do you mean?
To be able to smoke it. Out of it.
I got you.
I believe everything has a function. Like the Depression era glass was created at the time because people couldn't afford it, necessarily nice glass, but the function of that was to come home and see pretty glass and put a smile on your face, something you could pay $2 for back then, or 50 cents even, So function is there, but the function of the smoking aspect of it, people get stuff, like I heard there was Matt, what the hell's his name? Oh, Itai. He's this guy out in Colorado, or California. He's been making trumpets and musical instruments in glass that are functional pipes. But someone bought one, not even realizing that it was a pipe.
Right.
They get the thing, and they're like, and they would let him know that there was a pipe. And the guy's like, well, I don't want to smoke this, but if I was, how am I going to use this thing?
Right.
It's kind of interesting. But that's kind of one side of where the industry is at, and the other side of the industry is the production and the customer. Like, I mean, I say every day there's a couple million 18-year-olds being born, or and becoming 18 that they can legally purchase pipes now.
Right.
Unless you're in like we're saying, the federal stage, you have to be 21 to purchase, which is a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah, when you told me that, I never even thought about that. That it's so great that these states make it legal. And then, for somebody that's like 19, it's like, damn.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't go buy one now.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, but it's cool because that's another facet of your show. You're educating people on little details like that they never would have thought of.
Yeah.
So from functionality perspective, are there any, other than art and smoking, are there any other use of glass? Like, is there anybody doing anything with glass that goes beyond that? I can't even sit here and think that there would be. I mean, it's not like, I guess you can make a glass pitcher that looks really pretty or something like that.
Right. Well, there's some guys out there now that are. Well, it's been around for a while, but there's some newer artists that I've been seeing that are actually using the Fritz and powders, the crushed glass that we use, to create canvas and create paintings and stuff.
Oh,
like
that's
painstakingly, cool. like the guys over in China that do like the sand draw, and even the Tibetan guys that do the sand paintings and stuff.
Right.
Same kind of idea, but they're doing it in glass, and then they put it in a kiln and fuse it. I mean, like full landscapes, portraits, the whole 9 yards, like amazing detail, and just in using different colors. But I think what the pipe industry has allowed is for the color companies to really start to evolve themselves, because when I started years ago, there was like 6 or 7 colors available. Now our palette is catching up to the soft glass world that's had hundreds of colors for hundreds of years. And so I think the science is really what's evolving. But then, like, you get into MIT, who's now created a glass printer that they can do, crazy shit with. It's just.
Well, there's also the talk that the future of the smartphone is going to be a thin sheet of glass.
Right, exactly.
Transparent glass that, it's kind of getting into the holographic shit. But,
yeah.
So there could be a technology aspect in the future of it. But
yeah, like Corning's been really big on the Gorilla Glass, I guess they call it, that they've created for the phones nowadays that are being used. It's supposed to withstand, a freaking elephant walking across the thing.
Right.
But then we get into, Tony Stark's type technology,
right.
which is badass.
Right.
I'm all about it.
Well, for the elephant, you really got to worry about if you're walking the streets of India.
Yeah.
Damn, I dropped my phone. Oh no, there's an elephant coming.
Exactly.
So, but now you do a lot of pipe work, but do you enjoy? So I'm curious. You're doing pipes, and there's a whole business to that. But when I asked you to help me make a glass shark.
Mhm.
But so when you're on the kiln and you're in your room and you're in your zone, you're in your space, what do you like to make? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning as far as the actual art? Is it just whatever's that day, or is there something that you really like?
Yeah, it's kind of everything, honestly. Like, there's been times where I've received orders and that, like, when I got the order, it was like, oh yeah, I'm all about it. But then all of a sudden, like 2 days later, it wasn't as exciting. And I know for the customers the same way. Like, customers that I've had order from me and it took me longer than I expected to get it to them, whether it was something broke or whatever. By the time they received it, they weren't as excited about it either. It's kind of this fine line with art, whether you have this excitement for it and then it kind of fizzles out. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird psychology type of thing. But really, for myself on that note is pretty much, I mean, just the fact that I can get up and literally go to work on my underwear if I wanted to, which I've done for years anyways.
Right.
I mean, I had a meme created for me of me in my garage blowing glass in my underwear. It's funny, but yeah. But I mean, really, it's just the blessing to be able to do what I do for a living. And in the past I've had to go get jobs here and there to make ends meet and whatever.
Right.
And then when I do that, I get a freaking huge order and I got to quit the job.
Right.
Kind of deal. But really, it's just the idea that I can get up and go do and turn the torch on and get busy.
So you rewind the tape 16, 17 years. And you and I talked about this on my show, and I know you've talked about it before, but I think it's a cool story going back to the days of working at Subway. Like, what was that moment for you where you knew, all right, this is art, this is what I would love to do. How do I get to a point in my life where I'm in my underwear blowing glass? What was that moment for you where you learned that you had your aha moment about blowing glass?
I think it was at the time. Kind of what pops in my head is when I was first starting the glass work. I didn't touch a torch for 6 months. Like, I had to do shop keep. I was driving home and covered in glitter every fucking day. I drive my Volkswagen bus and long ass hair, do my thing. And then once I got the torch turned on, because of my artistic brain, I was wanting to create art.
Right.
But knowing that to make money as an artist, you have to do production. And so I was making what we call dragon tears, which is basically like a teardrop of glass with a little loop on it. And I was making like 3 or 4 of them an hour, and I was making them individually. And my master, Gordon, who pulled me aside, is like, this is how you need to do it. And they showed me the production side of doing the glass. And immediately my skills that I learned through Subway came in, where all that business thoughts all came in. And then the glass all kind of came into the production side of things. And then it all kind of just clicked, like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
I can see value as an artist. I have an outlet now. I also see value as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to be able to be a professional artist now, potentially for the rest of my life, not even just making pipes, because at that point in time I wasn't making pipes yet. And even just working the Renaissance Festival and being in that environment, which was kind of crazy, but still being a part of that in the retail side of things, and also the demonstration side, because we were on stage the whole time too, blowing glass there. And 6 months into on the torch, I'm already on freaking stage in front of thousands of people doing this thing. It's different from Disney, where we've got like 15 to 20,000 a day coming through our shop.
Right.
But still, that was the point, I think, really, where it went from, okay, I can be an artist if I want, but I can be an artist somewhat and be a business owner and be production creative, and then just see how much I can make, how many pieces I can make. Because like I like making individual items, spending like 4 or 5 hours on something, but I really personally enjoy opening a kiln and seeing 50, 60 pieces in there from a long day's worth of work.
Right.
For me, that's more rewarding, I guess.
So for you, the reward is the business end.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of observing people that take sort of the vision they have, the dreams they have, and they put it into physical reality. So you're literally doing that. I mean, think the podcast, what people are listening to right now, isn't just about blowing glass. It is about the business, how people can make money doing what it is they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, my grandparents had a restaurant called Chicken Unlimited, and they had 2 stores, and I was always there, as growing up as a kid. My mom was working, so my grandma would get us from school. So I was there helping clean chickens and throw things in the fryer at like 6, 7, 8 years old, up until I think I was about 12, helping run these stores. So I've had that kind of entrepreneur gene always there.
Right.
It was just trying to find out where it was. But even as a kid, my goal has always been to be a household name, whether it was my personal name or a product that I came up with. And in going back to with Luke's episode we just had on trademarking, thinking about like generic brands like Coke or Q-Tip or Kleenex.
Right.
That was an idea that I was like, I want to create a brand that's always being used as a household name. But at that point in time in my life, I also had this slight obsession with serial killers. So I was like, well, maybe I just get on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list and be a household name that way. That doesn't work out really too well for you, but
That's really funny.
But now that I got this Wise Guy brand going, it's
Right.
it's becoming part of people's vocabulary in a sense. It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, it's very cool. Because Wise Guy, it can be anything, but the more you can sort of associate Wise Guy with the owl and the image of that, the creation of that, the build your own Wise Guy. Yeah, it becomes a name in this community, and it only grows from there.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes a great gift during the holiday season. A little plug for your business.
Yeah, there you go. Etsy.
Etsy store /Wise Guy.
But yeah, but it's kind of funny on that same note was like trying to figure out the branding for the podcast because like I don't have any glass in there whatsoever. It's just the owl, the Wise Guy radio show, and then fire in the background. Mm-hmm. So when people see that logo, they don't necessarily know that this is a show about glass blowing. Right. But it's caught on.
Right. Well, and the one thing I've seen in the podcast space and working with other podcasters, yourself included, is that you're doing 3 shows a week. With every show you do, you brand what you do more. Even with this episode, people are gonna somebody's gonna take something away from this episode that you may have talked about before, but it's on this episode, me talking to you, me interviewing you, me having a conversation with you that cements your brand even more. Here's Jay Michael. He's got his glass. He's got his Build Your Own Wise Guy. And 6 months from now with the podcast, it even furthers it. It's why I'm always saying be consistent, because you're never going to build a brand if you're inconsistent.
Yeah, exactly.
As with most podcasters, you're talking about other glass podcasters that suddenly end. And you think about all the podcasts out there. Here's my favorite quote: iTunes is a graveyard of wishful thinkers.
Interesting.
Because it is.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of people going, I'm going to do a podcast about cars. They do 4 and they go, I ain't got any fucking thing to talk about anymore.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm like trying to tell podcasters, think about what you're going to talk about before you do it.
Yeah.
But it is about becoming a household name, building that brand, which is really cool. Because I can see, you, as I've told the story, you inspired me as a business person on your wedding day to get off my ass and do something. A year later, I don't know what the hell I'm doing still, but I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, together we were learning this stuff.
Exactly. We're kind of figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah.
No, but that's cool, though. I think that it's such an interesting dichotomy of knowledge. Inventory line of a chicken restaurant and Subway, and the entertainment value of what you see at Disney and bringing it together and being, the authority, which is a good way to put it, especially if you're going to be next year speaking in forums, talking at trade shows and things like that, people start to see you as the authority in this space. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that 3 days a week you're cranking out podcasts about this content.
Yeah, for sure. And I look back at life influences, which I've kind of been able to take to where I'm at now, and it goes back to Walt Disney is a huge influence in my life.
Right.
Put all the politics of him aside, but the creative genius and the business thought and thinking so big into the future. And then wrestling. I grew up watching WWF, now WWE, my whole life, and I still watch it to this day. I took some time off here and there, and I'm not every week watching this shit. Now that I have the app on my phone or TV, I can watch it whenever I want. But if you think about the growth of a professional wrestler going through the circuits of having 5 people in an audience where you have to perform as if there's 1,000 people there, to now you're in the WWF or WWE having an opportunity to then become the champion. But it takes years of practice and growth and repetition and consistency and finding your character and a name and a brand for yourself in a sense as a wrestler and as a name, to one day you have a fucking toy on a shelf at Kmart or whatever, that some little kid can go buy now. Now you're the WWE champion, making millions of fucking dollars. You're still putting your body out there on the line. I mean, there's a lot of things involved, but the dichotomy of the idea of growth over a long period of time. I mean, it's like retirement. You got to save up for retirement. It might take you 30 years to have $1 million in your bank, but take the fucking 30 years and you're consistent with it.
Right.
Anything you do in business or life in general, it takes time. And this show's the same way. Like I would love to turn this fucking mic on the first time, and all of a sudden I've got 1 million downloads and 500 freaking people paying for the show and whatever. But it's not the reality. It takes definitely time. And as a glass artist, I preach that as well. You got to start off at the very basic foundation before you even think about jumping into anything that's super high end. Because a lot of people out there, they see this high end shit, they see the money being paid for it, and they're like, "Oh, I could fucking do that."
Right.
And then they try to make a production piece, and they're lost because they've never done production before.
There's an essence where in any industry, in any business, because I agree with you, it takes time. I'm an extraordinarily patient person, but starting my own podcast and starting my business has taught me patience. That you just got to let it grow. You got to kind of have to move at that pace of patience. That in that space, it weeds people out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, big time.
You're an authority in the space, and you didn't get here overnight.
Yeah.
And the people get instant gratification. Oh, I'm going to create this huge production piece. I'm going to sell it for $50,000. They don't do that the first time, so they give it up. So this space weeds out the people who are serious versus the people who should probably go do something else, whatever that something else is.
Yeah, exactly. And then on that same note, it's kind of a transition. I'm starting to teach classes in January, and one of the classes I'm going to offer is come blow glass and see if it's something you even like.
Right.
Because people will spend thousands of dollars on all their equipment, and they get set up, and they're like, I don't want to fucking do this. And next thing they know, they're selling it for half what they paid for it, and they've lost, a couple $1,000s worth of money. It happens every day. I see on Craigslist people putting torches up for sale because they spent $2,000 on a torch, and now they're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So it's important to go try things, whatever it is, and figure it out. Mm-hmm. My glasses have been the same way. The evolution of my glasses, being self-taught, I've had to learn techniques on my own, figure things out, and I would learn a technique, and if I really liked it, I would hold on to that. But I would still hold on to it and move on to the next thing. If I didn't like what I was doing, I would move on to the next thing anyways, and then continue to learn and evolve until I really found what it was that I wanted to do, which came to be I enjoy form and shape. So I've taken the patterns and styles that I've learned and then turned them and added those to the shapes of items, which is where my owls came in, because I like that shape that I make out of the Wise Guy. It's a functional shape when you're using it, and it's also cool looking. They're fun, cutesy little things,
So, because I wanted to ask about the owl. I mean, that's your brand. That's the Wise Guy. So, like, take me to the day that form and that shape came to life.
Well, it started at Disney.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lady came in. We carry a line of glass from a company called Glass Baron, and a lot of our artists that have worked through us through the years used to work for Glass Baron up in Virginia, and they shut their factory down, and they have the R&D facility there, but all their shit's made in China now.
Right.
So, long story short, lady came in wanting to get an owl made because we had one for sale, but she didn't like it. So I was like, well, I've made owls in the past, but I'd never say no to guests. I've only had to give one refund on an item, which was some guy wanted me to make him a llama, and I just gave up on it and gave him his money back. But this owl came out, and I made it, and all of us in the store were like, damn, this thing's really cute. So I made a second one. She loved it. She bought it. I sent this one to my manager, but I also put it up on Instagram. And immediately people were like, holy shit, this is awesome. Can you make it functional? And I'm like, I've never done it before, but sure, why not? And so I did it, and the guy that hit me up, so we were going back and forth with emails and whatever, and I made it for him, and then never got a response back. So I sold it to one of my local stores, but the response was still coming, and Britt and I my wife Britt and I sat and we're like, well, this response is what I did not expect. How can I take this now and make this my thing? Because a lot of the artists now in our industry have their thing, whether they're making elephants or rhinos or whatever. And so the owl became my deal. But owls are also significant in my family as kind of a traditional animal, I guess. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was, the whole 9 yards. So really it started from this little figure at Disney, evolved into me making some functional ones at home, to then figuring out how can I take this now and produce it in a production line, make them all unique and individual, and then it's just spawned from there. How can I always constantly evolve with the industry as these owls have evolved? But then even the name, we were coming up with thinking of different ideas for naming and stuff, and the Wise Guy thing came up, and then Britt with her genius came up with the spelling of it, and we Googled it, and there's some companies around the country that are spelt the same way, but they're tech companies,
Right.
So I got to get this whole thing trademarked, for real, to make sure I can, keep it.
Because it's a very unique, visually it's unique, the brand is unique. It's something that could, in its form and fashion as time goes on, become the household name that you're trying to create.
Yeah, for sure. And having my drawing background, and I have characters of my own that I've been drawing forever, that I've taken the concept of characters and started creating different characters in the Wise Guy lines. I've got this Wake and Bake guy. He's got stony eyes, and one that's got one big pupil smaller than the other, which is actually what the logo is, and that's my tweaker owl. And then I've got my little shy guy who's got little bashful eyes. And there's kind of these different characters that I've come up with that have helped the line evolve, and then I'm getting responses on who likes what, and so then I've faded some out and brought new ones in, and kind of thing. But it's it's an important evolution, and whatever you're doing. But with my line in particular, it's just kind of how it's worked.
Right.
And then I was coming home one day listening to a podcast, and this guy Aaron Walker, who I recommend anybody look up. This guy is incredible. His whole idea of significance in life after you make a success for yourself, and it's something he had said in this podcast. I had 5 light bulb moments on the way home that night, and I made 10 phone calls. Can you do this, and that? All these ideas that were popping in my head.
Right.
which really what started to really spawn the Wise Guy brand of the build your own Wise Guy thing that we're developing now, and then the podcast idea and how can I reach out, because we had the Degenerate Art documentary came out a couple years ago, and that spawned this whole new generation of glass blowers. And I was seeing these guys in their bedrooms blowing glass with a fucking box fan in the window, which is completely unhealthy, much less burn your house down because you're in your bedroom. So I'm like, I got to reach out to these people somehow. These people need to be told, like, you guys can't be doing this. This is not healthy for you if you want to do this forever. So the podcast kind of idea came up to be, you know, with how can I take the Wise Guy brand and then carry it into the thing. And my dad and I were talking. He's like, you should just carry the name of the show, of your brand into the show. And I'm like, yeah, actually, we're going to call it the Wise Guy Radio Show. And it was like, it rolls off the tongue well. You know, it sounds good. You don't know it's a glass show, but it's the name is there, and people in the industry understand what it is, potentially.
Well, and that's why a tagline is important.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
yeah, which I actually just learned through my iTunes thing. I just did that recently, so it's in there.
So, you know, on that whole element, because I want to save sort of the how do you see the future going, but you know, you've got a brand that you're building that has the potential on all elements of a glass artist, the podcast, and all that, to be a huge success for you, like an enormous success for you. You know, making more money than you ever could have dreamed of. That comes to fruition. What do you do at that point? What do you do when suddenly you're making, you know, a lot of zeros every year?
The long-term goal is to start educational programs for inner-city kids to come in and blow glass. Like I had a gallery down in St. Pete at one point in time, and the goal with that space was to get funding to help bring in the kids like from the YMCA, like the after-school programs, to come in and learn glass blowing. Because you see a lot of these stories of these kids in these inner cities that their parents have to work, so these kids are walking the streets, so they get taken into the YMCA's and the different programs, and then they learn a skill of some sort that then ends up taking them on this journey of their life that they become very successful. Like instead of being stuck in the ghetto, they get out of the ghetto and they become successful. So the idea with the renaissance of the glass in general, I'm not going to teach kids how to make pipes, but if I can teach them the medium itself, spark an artistic interest, give them some insight into business, you know, instead of running a lemonade stand, sit outside your front door and sell your pendants you're making in your garage, you know, kind of idea. So that's the long-term goal, you know. And I'm seeing a lot of these bigger guys out there in the business world, Pencils for Promise, for instance. And they're building schools in Vietnam and Central and South America. You know, it's awesome. Like if I could do a fundraising where, you know, if I can afford it, you know, which hopefully I will be able to, say, you know, if we raise $20,000, I'll match that $20,000, and we'll go build 4 schools in some, you know, third world country somewhere to help these kids out. Because really that's where it's at, is like the generations that are coming up, whether you're there in Africa or Central America or Florida, the lower income kids don't have to necessarily be stuck in that lower income. They can get out of it by finding a skill set, a trade, whatever it could be, or even just being inspired, you know, to help other people on that same note. Even if they can't afford it monetarily, they can afford to do it physically by working in a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving or, you know, that kind of stuff. So
well, and the other part of that is what art does to your brain.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and you know, I don't want to get too, you know, on the political rant on this, but how art has been sort of extracted from schools over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and how screwed up kids are when they don't have art to balance their life.
Yeah.
So you might introduce a kid, an inner city youth, to blowing glass, but that really sparks a fire in them to explore art.
Yeah, exactly.
To explore music, to explore something that feeds, you know, a part of their brain that they're just not, it's not being satisfied under a normal public education school system.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of the things with Britt that I fell in love with her, because being an art teacher, an elementary art teacher, and she works with the in a school that most of her students are children of migrant workers, you know, in town. And their school would be lost without, I mean, if she ever did retire, which she's going to soon, you know, these kids are going to lose a huge element of someone that is very inspirational to their lives through art, you know?
Right.
It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I think and that's kind of why I was asking the question, is that, you know, you build a brand, you get rich, you get successful, and then it's about the contribution.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my goal is I want to make more money than I ever know what to do with, so that I can give it all.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
So I mean, I know Zuckerberg got shit this week because he said he's going to give away his billions, and Bill Gates giving away his billions, and everybody wants to, you know, say, you know, well, bullshit, they're blah, 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 blah. But there's some element of philanthropy there that's pretty friggin' cool.
Oh, yeah. It's to be able to do that, man, it's fucking awesome.
Dude, if I was worth $30 billion,
yeah,
I mean, that's the kind of money that absolutely changes the world, whether you're building schools or whether you know,
Yeah.
building peacekeeping forces, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think art has a big impact with that. So shifting gears a little bit, because I do want to come back to that at the end. But what has been the thing for you that taught you sort of on your journey that wasn't a success? You know, and I don't want to call it a failure because I don't believe that there's a failure element, because you can learn from everything. But what didn't go as planned that taught you? That maybe helped you course correct to things that are going right. So what's something what was a bump in the road in the past for you?
Well, I think for one, being raised by a single mom and having divorced parents at a young age taught me perseverance and like how to really be on my own. And my mom was there for me all the time, but really to focus on what I wanted in life and to find out how to get it.
Right.
And so through this course of the glass blowing, it's I've always said that if Picasso or Da Vinci or one of those guys were glass blowers, they would probably hung themselves, because they can just put white gesso on a canvas and start over, whereas a glass artist, you spend 10 hours on something and it fucking breaks, you got to start all over again.
Yeah.
So in perseverance in this industry, just not even the industry, but as a glass artist, it's huge. And I don't know if there's anything specifically like a memory per se, but really it's the whole idea of perseverance and overcoming obstacles. I've been through a divorce. There's all kind of shit that I've gone through in my life that I could share with everybody, but it's getting through that obstacle and hurdle and then on to the next thing. You get knocked down, you get back up. Right. And I think with the glass has really kind of highlighted that part of me, of the idea that I persevere. I also could also be a roadblock for myself too, because it's hard for me to give things up. Like I get so like, I'm not going to not make this. Like I've had customers who I've made custom pieces for where it's taken me 3 or 4 fucking times to get this piece made because the first couple of things I made broke, and it's costing me fucking hundreds of dollars, but I don't care because my personality is that I want to have this thing accomplished. Right. So I think it's more of that kind of idea of perseverance. But again, on learning the production through Subway and then getting into production myself, knowing how to stay focused on, say I make a list and I get this list knocked out, I think that's also been a huge thing of the focus of really setting a goal and then accomplishing that goal. And the days that I don't accomplish those goals are the days that I beat myself up, which is stupid, but I still do, which then takes
it's called being a human being.
Right. But then it takes a couple days to get over it,
Right.
But also dealing with ADHD and all these other things that have been a huge obstacle in my life, my entire life. It's really just kind of overall the spirit of who I am and type A personality and a go-getter and whatever else. It's the perseverance and overcoming being told no for once, your glass breaking, which your glass is telling you no in a sense as well. There's a lot of things, but it's also with the glass too, I find. I always preach that is when you try to control it, it burns you or it cuts you or it breaks.
Right.
And it's the idea of not always being in control, of allowing the universe to just take its, place in your life and you just follow the path that you're on. And then, it's the whole idea of, going with the flow. But then there's a quote that I've heard that even dead fish can go with the flow, or it's one of those things can go down, stream or whatever. So it's, sometimes we got to swim upstream,
right?
To get to where we need to get to. And even, I guess, even on that same note, on this industry and the way the laws have been, for the first 15 years of my life, I had to stay underground in my cave, paranoid and worried. Fucking John Ashcroft and the federal government's coming in and arresting everybody, and we're all freaking out. So even having to get through that time period to where we are now, all of us that have been through this time period are now, we're all set. When cannabis is federally legal across the world, even it's gonna be huge. I mean, all of us that have the skill set are now going to be able to create this huge business for ourselves. There's guys that have taken that idea and already done it, which is very ballsy, to go out and get be a major production company. But it's gonna allow us smaller guys that are big in a sense, but small guys that have a skill set to get to that point to where we can become pretty big. So again, it's the perseverance. It's just getting through, the bullshit.
Well, and I think, because I think there's tons of lessons in that, but it's an interesting parallel between, because I'm not a glass artist, I'm not even an artist, but that when you create something, you do have to give up some control.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in on all the Buddhist shit I read, that you got to let life unfold however it needs to. Just as you kind of said a minute ago, you're going to do a piece and then you got to let that unfold however it needs to. Because if you force it, it's glass, it's fragile, it will break.
Yep.
So I think that's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit, because I think one of your inspirations, sort of an unintended inspiration, was that you had to drive 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Driving from Dunedin over to the Mouse to blow glass. You listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
And it started one of our original conversations about podcasting. And you mentioned one a few minutes ago. What are some shows that you listen to that either now or in the past that have inspired you, that in this space you can share that maybe other people can listen to?
Yeah, well, the big one was Entrepreneur on Fire.
Right.
But really the catalyst to all of this was Dave Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, I was at a point in my life where I was broke. I had just gotten hired by Disney, which was a godsend. And I was even trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my gas to get there. I mean, it was costing me fucking $20 a day round trip, to get there back and forth. And so I needed some financial assistance. So I prayed out there to God. I'm like, send me some guidance of some sort. So I went on freaking Google search and just put in financial advice, and Dave Ramsey pops up. So I started searching YouTube for videos and stuff. So I was like listening to the audio of the videos on the drive. And then I did some more research and found they had a podcast. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it was only like his highlights of his shows. But then that bled into Entrepreneur on Fire, Tim Ferriss. The Tim Ferriss show is amazing. If you guys haven't listened to Tim Ferriss, he's had recent with his Jamie Foxx interview.
Mm-hmm. I saw the picture. I didn't listen to it yet.
Phenomenal, dude. Jamie Foxx is an inspiration for anybody to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was an adopted child at like 18 months. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Just fucking amazing guy.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I've come across is Mechanic to Millionaire, which is very inspiring. Pat Flynn's Passive Income, which again, part of our business. My business model is a passive income thing where you do all the work now and you get paid for residual income or whatever. Your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, the talent show. If anybody interested in podcasting or just want it, even your life lessons, I mean, you can take all this stuff that we do for podcasting and use it for life. The new one you introduced me to also, that coach, what's her face?
Who, Brooke Castillo?
Oh, yeah.
I fucking love her.
Yeah, good show. What's that show called?
It's the Life Coach School podcast.
Yeah.
She's got two. She's got How to Be a Life Coach and then Life Coach School podcast. But she's a life coach.
Yeah.
So she's a master coach. So she's always talking integrity, pride, facing your fear, shit like that.
Yeah, her business talk on there is awesome.
Yeah, her business show actually. And it's funny you say that about mine because I listened to her. She's got this whole podcast on how to be a life coach, or how to start your own life coach business, how to make $100,000 being a life coach. And every episode, I'm like, well, that applies to my business. It applies to your business. It applies to any entrepreneur because they're just real basic lessons in there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love her, and she sounds good too. She's great sounding.
Yeah,
host.
yeah. I think though, one of the newer ones though is the Solopreneur Hour with Michael O'Neill.
Yeah, I like that.
He's very transparent and real. And he's all about his whole concept is that for those that are not able to be employed, because some of us just can't be employees. Right. The only way I'm able to work at Disney is because I'm more or less self-employed there. I have a manager, I have a boss I have to go to. I don't ever see him. I just go do my job. I clock in, I blow glass all day, and I go home. I walk the park on my breaks, do whatever I want to do. As long as I follow Disney's rules, I'm good to go.
Right.
That's the only way I could do that. I couldn't be a salesperson or walk the floor for this company. So the whole solopreneur concept, because I was I don't know if it's a term I came up with or it's out there, but the artistic entrepreneur idea, where we can be artistic entrepreneurs. There's no reason we can't be.
Right.
As long as you have some kind of business background. But those are the main ones. I'd say Dave Ramsey's a really big one. He's been a big influence in my life. And then of course, Pat Flynn's Passive Income is another one that's been recently been really big.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of podcast, and not to get on my soapbox, but I'm such a believer in the spoken word. Here we are talking, and the imagery that if somebody's listening to this right now, whatever they're creating in their mind about you and I having a conversation, is just really powerful. The spoken word is powerful. Dave Ramsey impacted you. Brooke Castillo impacted you. Brooke, impacts me because I believe that when she's in her groove, or any host is in their groove, again, it doesn't matter. As long as what they're saying has an impact on you, the power of spoken word is really powerful. A couple that I've discovered lately, this one dude does a show, I think it's called The Accidental Creative.
Huh.
Look that one up.
Okay.
That guy's, a lot of them kind of say a lot of the same things, but the way they inspire, the way, I'm not a huge John Lee Dumas fan, but no question, he'll ask, that same bank of questions to somebody, but the way somebody gives that answer and the power of spoken word, lights fire. Could be a former vet. It could be somebody that has no even close area to my business. But he or she says something that clicks in something in me and then gives me an aha moment, like you were saying a few minutes ago. So, So those are power. That's one of the areas where what we do as podcasters can be so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So just to kind of put a bow on all this, and you talked about it a minute ago. First of all, thanks for letting me do this.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah.
So happy birthday again.
Yeah, thank you.
So life unfolds like it's supposed to, or like ever it needs to. Where do you see the industry, and where do you see you in 10 years? Not 5 years, but 10 years. So on your 49th birthday.
So I would say, if political landscape and everything aside, I think the way that the cannabis laws are going, I think in the next 10 years we'll have federal legalization. I know everybody's been saying this shit for fucking 50 years, but
Right.
I think it's at a point now where the government has seen the amount of monetary value on it, besides, the drug enforcement bullshit. I mean, we can get into politics all day long. But once that changes, I think it's really going to open up the landscape across the board for people that will now, like we talked about before, with learning art, getting a chance to try glass blowing because they were inspired because they saw someone's badass pipe they had. Going back to like the days of, making shit out of Coke cans and tinfoil and, whatever.
Apples.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I never thought I'd make glass pipes.
Right.
So I think the educational side, the business side, is going to be a bigger scheme as the industry is taken serious, because we're going to be getting into things where we will be liable for our product. If someone burns themselves or hurts themselves, we could potentially be sued in civil court for liability, like the old lady that sued McDonald's for burning her crotch with hot coffee. I mean, that kind of shit's real. So those of us, again, like we said, that don't take this seriously are going to fall the wayside. Those of us who do take this seriously in the next 10 years will become financially very successful. There's no reason not to be. Just the fact that myself personally, I'm going to have my own retail store. Once the legalities, I've got some business plans already that once the shit changes to our benefit, there's going to be all kind of new ideas for business opening up. It's that this industry has just barely been tapped. And we say now we're like in the teenage phase right now. We've gone from the infancy, now we're maybe not even teenage. Maybe we're still like around 10, not quite. Maybe our tweens.
Tween age.
Yeah. Like I need a training bra, but
Right.
I really don't right now. But I still want to wear one because I'm cool. I want to be 25. But it's interesting. So I'm looking forward to the day where I can work in my studio, and if a cop drives by, I'm not worried about him. Like, oh, wonder what they're doing in there,
Right.
kind of deal. But I also think like it's going to open up eyes to this whole new creative process. Even though glass has been around for thousands of years, Dale Chihuly's a big name in the glass world. People call him Chihuki and all kind of other fucking names. They can't even say his name properly, but they still know his name and his brand. Like Luke Zimmerman was saying how even Chihuly has a signature trademarked. That's where the business is going to go. And then all the offset outspawned companies that are going to come out of our industry, which has already started. It's going to be it's a $1 billion industry already. It's going to be multi-billion dollar industry on a worldwide level, and it's going to change. I've always said hemp's going to change the world. The Emperor Wears No Clothes was an amazing book. It's when hemp is legalized again, it's going to change the fucking world. I think in 10 years, all of that will come to fruition. Hopefully, I'm in Paris, maybe hanging out in the studio, doing glass there. Who knows, but. That's kind of the idea, is really to see this overall change of attitude in the world. Hopefully,
Right.
if it all works out, it's kind of my dream.
Well, my friend, you're poised to do it. So I hope you have a wonderful birthday, and cheers to the next 10 years.
Yeah, man, 39. Holy shit. Yeah, don't forget, guys. You can go to my Etsy. I'm doing a sale until the 16th, I think it is, the 17th. My coupon code. Just put in the code birthday. You'll get 39% off your entire purchase, which is I'm giving shit away.
Oh, I love it.
And then also next week I'm going to be starting my question of the week, which I actually got from Lou Mangello for the WDW show. If you guys like Disney, check out the WDW podcast. Guy's got an awesome show on Disney's history, but he does a giveaway every week, and he asks a question based on something that was in the last show or an episode or a question of the industry or whatever. So I'm going to start doing weekly giveaways for the show, so stay tuned for that for sure. And thank you again, dude, for all your help and insight and guidance and inspiration and motivation and being excited to be here and do this interview, because I've been wanting to share my story, and we've only kind of got the tip of the iceberg here with the 17 years of heartaches and cuts and burns, and fuck, I got a burn on my hand right now. It still hurts a couple of days ago, so thank you so much.
You got it, man. I'm glad to do it.
And go check out the Talent Show podcast, Michael Sharkey.
TalentShowPodcast.com if you're an aspiring podcaster.
There you go. Fuck yeah, dude. Well, you all take it easy. Thanks for tuning into the Wise Guy Radio Show. Episode 66, I think this is going to be. I don't know. You'll know in my intro when I do that. So otherwise, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you on the next episode. Take it easy. See ya. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.